And now, it's time for the Nailsin Ratings. Witty commentary by me, Mr. Nailsin, on all things concerning life, culture, entertainment, and whatever else the cat may drag in. Well, Disney is apparently working on a reboot of the Rocketeer, which was a really good film. I really enjoyed it. It bombed. It didn't do very well at the time it came out. It was back in '91. It's based on a comic book by Dave Stevens, who was a fantastic artist. Unfortunately, he passed away some time ago. But it was one of these that, like Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark, paid homage to the old serials that they had in the 30s and 40s. They would have, like Flash Gordon and all that. And that was the idea, because there was a series like Rocket Man or something like that, and that's pretty much top to bottom the look and everything that he took for his character, although Rocketeer looked a lot better. But anyway, and so it was a cool thing he did, and it was actually like a backup feature for a comic book series in the 80s called Star Slayer, so it was almost kind of like, hey, we got this extra space, we need you to fill it up, can you do it? And so he came up with this thing, and it was really great. He's also kind of responsible for in the series, the main character as Cliff Secord, who is the Rocketeer. His girlfriend was called Betty, and she was completely an homage to Betty Page, the 50s pinup girl, who was kind of forgotten by then. And then this kind of brought her back, and then it was all popular. You see Betty Page stuff everywhere, and it owes to some of that to this comic book series. And anyway, when the movie came out, it had Billy Campbell as Secord and Jennifer Connelly, although they renamed her Ginny. I guess they just didn't want to do the Betty part. But good choice. And Timothy Dalton was the villain in this. And it was a good, little cheesy action thing. And it was good. It had good comedy in it, good action, and it was great. But it just didn't do well at the box office for some reason. But along the way, it developed this cult following, and a lot of people just really loved the film because it is that good. So, it was the kind of movie that looked like it could get a sequel, but unfortunately, it never did, because, like I said, it bombed, despite all the great brightness and happy adventure it had, and a wonderful score by James Horner. But, so anyway, but like I said, it became this cult thing, and so, of course, Disney's thinking, well, this could be another little franchise of ours, and I think that's what they're thinking. However, the reboot's going to look a little different. In fact, it's not really a reboot. Right now, the idea is for it to be a sequel. It's supposed to take place, I suppose, like 6 years later. But Cliff Secord apparently was lost during World War II fighting Nazis, and nobody knows what became of him. And so now this is supposed to be a Cold War plot, but it's kind of odd because 6 years is not enough years for them to get into the Cold War years, so they might have to rethink that. But anyway, the idea is, of course, a young African-American female pilot takes on the Rocketeer mantle. Because, you had a lot of African females pilots fighting communists back then. Yeah. And also, I've heard that it will be renamed the Rocketeers, so she might be like the leader of a team of Rocketeers. So they're going to try to Ghostbusters this one too, I guess. I don't know. But apparently, the idea was that they wanted to differentiate it from the original because they thought it was too close to Iron Man, which is interesting because currently in the Marvel comic series of Iron Man, Tony Stark is no longer Iron Man. A young African female is. So wow. Disney owns Marvel, so you'd think they would have known this, but apparently not. But anyway, this is the draft they're working on right now. Interestingly enough, of the writing team of Max Winkler and Matt Spicer, Max Winkler is actually the son of Henry Winkler, better known as the Fonz. Hey! So, there you go for that. Well, anyway, Now, at the time of the 40s and 50s, I'm not sure that an African-American lass would have been all that accepted by society as the hero of the day. But then again, keep in mind, there's that golden helmet. So if she puts that on, no one will know her skin color. So maybe that's what they're going for. I don't know. But but it's like this, you have to do it. And the excuse here that it's too close to Iron Man, I'm not buying that. I think this is, for some reason, the PC cult still thrives in Hollywood, and they felt it necessary to do this. Now, look, if you want to make up your own idea, I'm all for that. And I would probably set it in a more believable time. But nevertheless, here we go. It's too bad because it could have made a great series. A total reboot, because like Billy Campbell's too old now to play the part, I would think, unless they want to do, the retirement years of Rocketeer or whatever. But it could have been a great franchise series of stories. But I don't know if they could secure the rights like the comic book is. The comic book, in the movie, the idea is that Howard Hughes invented the rocket jet, which was a neat idea. It was clever, but it was to get around the original idea of the comic book. The comic book kind of teases and hints at the idea that pulp fiction character Doc Savage had invented it. And there's even a later story in which Cliff Secord meets Lamont Cranston, who is in reality the Shadow, and that kind of thing. So it was kind of keeping in with that era of characters, and it was a neat kind of another homage, if you will. But I don't know if Disney could, pony up for all that or make up knockoff characters and that kind of thing. But there again, you could have had a whole franchise if they could buy those characters. That would be a whole other franchise of this one shared universe of pulp characters. Well, so it looks like we're going to have Ghostbusters meets Rocketeer, and we'll call it the Rocketeers. So we'll see who else gets to be a Rocketeer in the Rocketeers. I don't know if this is a formula for success, but because it sure wasn't for Ghostbusters, but we'll see. But for lack of originality, I can't give Disney more than a star on this one. And that was the Nailsin Ratings! The views and opinions expressed by Mr. Nailsin are his and his alone, and do not express those of other entities that he may or may not be involved with. So any complaints and or comments should be sent to @Mr. Nailsin on Twitter, where they'll be promptly ignored and or blocked.